Have you ever wondered how different social classes spend their money? Imagine a world where everyone has the same amount of money to spend. It's an intriguing concept, isn't it? But the reality is far from that. We live in a world where financial habits differ vastly across social strata. In our daily hustle and bustle, we rarely pause to consider why our neighbors' financial habits might differ from ours. Yet, the way we spend our money can reveal a lot about our social class and the priorities ingrained in us by our circumstances. Let's begin our journey with the middle class. Picture a middle-class family. They're often juggling between saving for the future, investing in a modest home, and ensuring their children's education. They might be dreaming of a reliable car or a holiday, all while managing debt from mortgages, car loans, and student loans. Meanwhile, the rich and the poor have their unique spending habits. The rich, with their abundant wealth, have the luxury to splurge on high-end products, invest in lucrative businesses, and enjoy exotic vacations. On the other end of the spectrum, the poor, constrained by limited resources, prioritize basic necessities like food, shelter, and healthcare. Yet, amidst these disparities, there are some commonalities. All three classes share the goal of improving their circumstances, albeit in different ways. The middle class may see education as a stepping stone to climb the social and economic ladder. The rich might invest in businesses or real estate to multiply their wealth. The poor, on the other hand, may strive to save every penny to escape the clutches of poverty. But what's interesting is those unique things that the middle class spends on, which neither the rich nor the poor do. It's these differences that can be surprising, thought-provoking, and sometimes even amusing. So let's dive into the financial world of the middle class, contrasting it with the spending habits of the rich and poor. As we navigate through these financial landscapes, you might discover some surprising insights about your own spending habits. The middle class, a vast spectrum of society, but what do they spend their money on? Well, let's dive right in. The middle class is a fascinating group when it comes to spending habits. They're not just about making ends meet, but they're not exactly splurging on private jets and summer homes either. They're somewhere in between, and their spending habits reflect that. One of the top priorities for the middle class is saving money. This may sound like a no-brainer, but it's a bit more complex than it seems on the surface. They're not just stashing away every spare penny. Instead, they're strategically squirreling away funds for the future, whether that's for a rainy day, retirement, or their children's education. Speaking of education, ensuring a good education for their children is another major spending area for the middle class. They see education as a stepping stone, a way for their children to climb the social and economic ladder. Sometimes, this might mean spending heavily on educational paths that may not promise substantial financial returns, but they see it as an investment in their children's future. Now let's talk real estate. The middle class often invests in a modest home. They may not have access to luxury properties, but they do have the means to purchase a home. This isn't just about having a roof over their heads. It's about owning a piece of the pie, a tangible asset that can appreciate over time. Then there's the matter of debt. Mortgages, car loans, student loans, these are all common forms of debt for the middle class. These debts limit their discretionary spending and savings, but they're seen as necessary for maintaining their lifestyle and making progress toward their goals. Lastly, the middle class tends to spend on brand-name products, experiences like vacations and concerts, and slightly upgraded versions of electronics and appliances. These are the little luxuries, the things that make life a bit more enjoyable and comfortable. These spending habits are quite unique, aren't they? But how do they compare to the rich and poor? Now let's shift our gaze to the rich. What do they do with their wealth? Well, the rich, my friends, they play in a completely different league. Their financial portfolio is as varied as it is vast, and their spending habits? Oh, they're a sight to behold. Imagine a world where money isn't a limiting factor, where you can live in your dream home, travel the world at whim, and indulge in the finest things life has to offer without a second thought. That's the world the rich inhabit. When it comes to property, the rich don't just invest, they indulge. Luxury properties with breathtaking views, state-of-the-art amenities, and prime locations are their playground. They don't just buy houses, they buy homes that are architectural marvels, status symbols, and let's not forget, formidable investments. But it's not just about the real estate. The rich have a penchant for high-end brand products too. Designer clothes, luxury cars, watches that cost a small fortune. They're not just products for the rich, they're lifestyle choices. The rich don't just buy brand names for the sake of it, They appreciate the quality, craftsmanship, and exclusivity these brands offer. And then there are the experiences. The rich, you see, don't just spend money, they spend it on creating memories, extravagant vacations, private concerts, gourmet dining experiences. They're all part of the rich lifestyle. These experiences, however extravagant they may seem, are about more than just splurging. They're about living life to the fullest, making the most of their wealth, and enjoying the fruits of their labor. So, what's the takeaway here? The rich spend their money differently. Their spending habits reflect their priorities, their tastes, and their desire to enjoy the finer things in life. It's not just about acquiring wealth, it's about how they choose to spend it. The rich certainly have a different approach to spending, but what about the poor? Turning our attention to those less fortunate, how do the poor manage their money? The financial landscape for the poor is a stark contrast to the middle class and the rich. Their spending habits are largely dictated by the need to survive, with the majority of their income allocated to basic needs such as food, shelter, and clothing. It's a constant game of catch-up where every penny counts, and the dream of financial comfort seems to always be just out of reach. Unlike the middle class, who are able to invest in real estate and education, the poor often struggle to secure basic housing and have limited access to quality education. This lack of upward mobility creates a cycle of poverty that is difficult to break, further widening the financial divide. Discretionary spending, a luxury enjoyed by the middle class and the rich, is virtually non-existent for the poor. The idea of splurging on brand-name products, experiences like vacations and concerts, or even slightly upgraded versions of electronics and appliances is often an unthinkable luxury. Furthermore, the poor are often burdened with debt, not from mortgages or student loans, but from high-interest loans used to cover emergencies or unexpected expenses. This type of debt, often referred to as bad debt, can lead to a cycle of borrowing that is difficult to escape and leaves little room for savings or investments. The poor's spending habits are not a matter of choice or preference, but rather a reflection of the harsh realities they face. They are the product of systemic issues and inequality that limit their financial opportunities and make it difficult for them to climb the economic ladder. The poor's spending habits underscore the stark contrast in financial realities. Let's circle back to the middle class. So, we've seen how the rich and poor spend their money, but how does this compare to the middle class? Well, let's dive into this. The middle class, which forms a significant part of our society, has a distinct pattern of expenditures that sets it apart from both the rich and the poor. Their spending habits are a reflection of their values, aspirations, and the economic constraints they face. For starters, the middle class prioritizes savings and invests in modest homes, unlike the rich who can afford lavish estates, and the poor who often struggle to own a roof over their heads. Their choice of property is a delicate balance between affordability and comfort, a luxury that the poor lack and the rich don't have to worry about. Then we have the realm of automobiles. The middle class often opts for reliable cars, viewing these not as status symbols but as practical tools for transportation. This is quite a contrast to the rich who may splurge on high-end luxury cars, and the poor who might rely on public transport or second-hand vehicles. Education is another area where the middle class carves its unique path. They value education and often spend heavily on it, viewing it as a ticket to upward mobility. The rich, with their wealth, have more educational options, while the poor may be limited by financial constraints. The middle class also carries debt, mainly from mortgages, car loans, and student loans. This is a stark contrast to the rich, who can pay up front for most of their expenses, and the poor, who may lack access to credit. And let's not forget about discretionary spending. The middle class tends to spend on brand-name products, experiences like vacations and concerts, and slightly upgraded versions of electronics and appliances. This is a balancing act between the indulgences of the rich and the necessities of the poor. Finally, the middle class strives for financial independence through wise investments and personal finance management. This is a goal that might seem distant for the poor and already achieved for the rich. It's fascinating to see how different social classes navigate their financial waters, isn't it? We've taken a journey through the financial habits of different social classes. What can we take away from this? Our expedition has led us through the alleys of financial habits, highlighting the unique spending ways of the middle class, and contrasting them with those of the rich and the poor. Let's recap. The middle class, often caught in the financial crossroads, prioritize saving money, investing in modest homes, reliable cars, and most importantly, Their children's education. They bear the weight of debts from mortgages, car loans and student loans, which in turn limits their discretionary spending and savings. It's a balancing act, juggling between needs, wants and debts. Education is a ladder for them to climb the social and economic strata. But here's the catch. They sometimes spend heavily on educational paths that may not promise substantial financial returns. A gamble, you could say, but a well-intentioned one. Real estate? Yes, they invest in that too. Not the luxury types though. They have the means to purchase a home but often lack access to opulent properties. Now let's talk about spending. They tend to lean towards brand name products, experiences like vacations, concerts, and slightly upgraded versions of electronics and appliances. It's about getting the best value for their hard-earned money. What's the takeaway here? It's essential for the middle class to align their spending with long-term benefits. Striving for financial independence through wise investments and personal finance management is the end goal. So, as we wrap up this segment, remember this. The way we handle our finances is a mirror to our values, priorities, and circumstances. It's not just about the money we have, but how we choose to spend it. Remember, the way we handle our finances is a reflection of our values, priorities, and circumstances. As we wrap up, let's ponder on this thought. In the grand scheme of things, money is just a tool. It's a means to an end, not the end itself. Whether you're part of the middle class, standing on the top rung, or struggling at the bottom, your financial habits ultimately define your monetary landscape. The middle class, as we've discovered, has a unique spending pattern. They value stability, education, and modest luxuries. They invest in homes, not just as a shelter, but as a financial asset. They prioritize their children's education as a stepping stone to a better future. They buy brand-name products not just for the prestige, but for the assurance of quality. They savor life's experiences from vacations to concerts, cherishing the memories these create. Yet it's important to remember that these habits aren't exclusive to the middle class. The rich and the poor too have their unique financial habits. The rich may invest in luxurious properties and high-end experiences, while the poor may prioritize basic needs and immediate gratification. What's fascinating is how these habits shape our lives, our dreams, and our futures. They impact not just our financial standing, but also our happiness, our relationships, and our sense of fulfillment. It's not about how much money we have, but how we use what we have. So ask yourself, what are your financial habits? Are they helping you build a better future? Or are they holding you back? Are you spending wisely, investing strategically, and saving diligently? Are you using your money as a tool to create the life you desire? Remember, it's not the amount of money that defines us, but our habits, our choices, and our actions. We can learn from the financial habits of different social classes, adapt the good practices, and avoid the pitfalls. Not to climb the social ladder, but to create a life of financial stability, fulfillment, and freedom. No matter which class we belong to, our financial habits can always be improved. Until next time, keep pondering on your financial habits and how they shape your life.